Namaskar, Saumona. Very warm greetings from the Indian Council for Cultural Relations, the cultural arm of the Ministry of External Affairs, which was set up in 1950 to foster cultural relations with other countries and has evolved over the decade and become a channel for soft diplomacy. On behalf of the organization, I'm extremely pleased to cordially invite you to the second day of the virtual global conference titled UBUNTU International Yoga Conference, Yoga for Universal Well-Being, Finding Commonalities Between Indian and African Traditions, a first of its kind organized by the ICCR on the occasion of the 7th International Day of Yoga. Through this virtual global conference, which started yesterday, we are unveiling the true meaning of the African philosophy, UBUNTU, which means humanity to others, the essence of the ancient tradition of yoga, and how the two ancient and enchanting civilizations of the world, Africa and India, can offer powerful and rare insights into the traditional healing ways through interactive sessions and panel discussions with experts. For the benefit of all those who have joined us today, the first day of the global virtual conference on the 7th International Day of Yoga comprised of the inaugural session, which witnessed the welcome address of Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe, Honorable Member of the Parliament, Rajya Sabha, and President of the Indian Council for Cultural Relations, followed by a live online address by the universally revered spiritual and humanitarian leader, Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. The inaugural session also had distinguished dignitaries from East Africa, West Africa, North Africa, and Central African Republic sharing their thoughts through recorded video messages on the UBUNTU Yoga International Conference, as well as a live online address by Sri Kiran Rijiju, Honorable Union Minister of State for Ayush, Youth Affairs and Sports, Independent Charge, besides the book launching ceremony of the book for children titled Sun Salutations. And last but not the least, we had excerpts from our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi's televised address to the nation early morning yesterday. The second segment of the conference on day one was the technical session 1, Yoga for COVID-19 Management, moderated by Dr. Sharduli Terwarkar. And today, before we open the conference with the technical session 2, titled Enhancing Mental and Physical Well-Being, I would kindly request Dr. Sharduli Terwarkar to begin this conference with a prayer invocation. After all, collective prayers have a lot of power. Like Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar has said, when you sit and do prayer in a group, then it's called yajna. Meditation is the best form of prayer. For those of you who missed Dr. Sharduli Tewarkar's introduction yesterday, she's the owner of Sukhayu Wellness Center and is an international Ayurveda and yoga practitioner with a vast experience of 22 years. Founder and former CEO of the Ayurveda Foundation of South Africa, she's a proud recipient of several prestigious awards and has several published work to her credit. Once again, a very warm welcome to you, Dr. Sharduli. You may take over.
Thank you, Manjishta ji. Let's celebrate the purest bond in this world, a bond between a guru and disciple. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Om Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This ancient Vedic prayer, offered by a guru for his disciple and himself for protection, nourishment, strength, power, knowledge, and peace that is achieved by leaving behind all ill thoughts. It's the best prayer to offer by everyone who wants pure knowledge. Thank you, Thokoza.
That was Dr. Sharduli Tewarkar, also the academic coordinator of this conference, with the beautifully soothing prayer session. Proceeding with the conference now on day 2, we shall begin with the technical session 2, Enhancing Mental and Physical Well-Being, to be moderated by Mr. Toki Mohoto, founder of the African Heritage Collective, Durban, a non-profit organization advocating for traditional healers and indigenous knowledge keepers in South Africa, Lesotho, and Swaziland. He co-chairs Empowering Youth to Act and Change Outcomes, a youth empowerment non-profit organization. A former chairman of Ikaya Multi-Arts Center in Kwamasu. He is currently heading 2 enterprises and is the founding CEO of Ahiko Radio. After the technical session 2, we shall break for 5 minutes and resume with technical session 3, the last session for this 2 days international conference. The technical session 3, titled Yoga for Cure of Lifestyle Diseases, would be moderated by Dr. Sharduli Terwarkar, who would be introducing the panelists to the audience. We now bring you technical session 2 on enhancing mental and physical well-being, to be moderated by Mr. Toki Mohoto. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. You may kindly take the floor and introduce your panelists to the audience.
Molweni, Avusheni, as well as greetings to all our guests from all over the world to this, the second technical session on the occasion of the International Day of Yoga, where we are deliberating under the UBUNTU International Yoga Conference. I am going to be introducing this technical session, which is entitled Enhancing Mental and Physical Well-Being, and I will now introduce my panel members who are going to be sharing their thoughts as well as explanation on different topics, after which I'm going to be interaction with them, where I'll reflect on their presentations and ask a few questions. First on our panel list is Ms. Akosa Asset, a certified Swai Tawi expert from Germany of Jamaican descent. Welcome. Next on our list would be Dr. Mutewo Khotsiwe, Acting Director at the Indigenous Knowledge Center, Faculty of Natural and Agricultural Science from the Northwest University in South Africa. After Dr. Mutewo, we are going to have Shri Sant Namte Ji Mash, Vihangam Yoga Sanskram and founder and CEO of Sadafal Foundation in Delhi, India. Last but not least, Dr. R. Nagaratna, Medical Director, Division of Yoga and Life Sciences and Chief Consultant at Arogyagama Svyasa. And lastly, I will then wrap up the session as well as head over to the SICR team in Delhi. For now, please, a video from Mr. Kausa. Set.
Greetings, my name is Nakosi Asset, and I'm going to share with you a 10-minute presentation about Smaitawi and its healing effects. Let's break down the word Smaitawi first. Smaitawi. Smai relates to union, and if you extend it, union through breath. And Tawi is the two lands. So you can relate it to Lower and Upper Egypt, or different parts of the world, or also the physical and the spiritual or mental body. So it's basically the union of two opposites. We base the healing principles in Smaitawi on the 9 principles of Tehuti, which relate to Smaitawi. I'm going to present those 9 principles, and I'm going to focus on 2 of those 9 principles a little bit more. So we have mental, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm. Rhythm is the one of the principles that I'm going to focus on more. Then we have cause and effect, gender, growth, and breath. Breath, as in Smai breathing, is also what I'm going to focus on a little bit more. Then let us take a closer look at rhythm. When we talk about rhythm in Smaitawi, we think of the principle that everything flows out and in, everything has its tides, all things rise and fall. The pendulum swings, manifesting in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Balance, harmony, ma'at, one of the principles also in Smaitawi. Rhythm correspondence. To swing to and fro, you need a point of origin and a fixed spot as to where the cord hangs from, and the first movement to start the swing. Yet all this is in the all. This is a physical principle, a motive principle. The principle of rhythm recognizes the sacred truth of universal law, of the passing away and the coming to be of the circular flow of things, also called life, death, life cycle. In the Smaitawi, this principle has to be understood by the student and practitioner. The aim is to attain self-mastery and to be the holder of the pendulum, where you control the rate, speed, and eventually suspend swinging to achieve a level of balance between polarities. This at times is unconsciously done. However, when consciously done, that's when the master in you appears. Smaitawi movements remove stiffness and releases energy flow throughout the body to such an extent that you are able to be aware of your flexibility and your potential to be fully mobile. Reclaim your rhythm and dance and adoration and gratitude of life, ancestors, and divinity. So one aspect of Smaitawi is hoodoo. Hoodoo, we engage in flowy and dancing movements. So that is that's where the importance on the rhythm and the rhythmic aspects. And then when we talk about the breath, the complete Smai breath, by the rhythmical, again, there we have the rhythm. So it's all about, being aware of the rhythm and being somewhat in control of the rhythm. By the rhythmical breathing, one may bring themselves into harmonious vibration with nature and aid in the unfoldment of his or her latent powers. Controlled breathing may not only cure disease in itself and others, or in herself and others, but also practically do away with fear and worry and the baser emotions. So to give you an idea of the full Smai breath, I will just read a little example for you, just to make sure we get a full picture of what the Smai breath really means. For example, we would begin sitting erect, breathing through the nostrils, inhale steadily, first filling the lower part of the lungs, which is accomplished by bringing into play the diaphragm, which descending exerts a gentle pressure on the abdominal organs, pushing forward the front walls of the abdomen. Then fill the middle part of the lungs, pushing out the lower ribs, breastbone, and chest. Then fill the higher portion of the lungs, protruding the upper chest, thus lifting the chest, including the upper 6 or 7 pairs of ribs. In the final movement, the lower part of the abdomen will be slightly drawn in, which movement gives the lungs support and also helps to fill the highest part of the lungs. It might seem struggling, but after a few tries, you will be able to hold the breath with, a little practice. Then we retain the breath for a few seconds. Then we exhale slowly, holding the chest in a firm position and drawing the abdomen in a little and lifting it upward slowly as the air leaves the lungs. When the air is entirely exhaled, relax the chest and abdomen. So that is the complete Smai breath. And that is so important for understanding Smaitawi and the particular system that I teach called Tetsima Pautnetaru. We have the ability to give the power of self-healing by guiding people in a synergistic system. In this system, there's movement for the body, meditation for the mind, and the breath for the spirit. Therefore, we are actually helping people to activate their self-healing power. Smaitawi has been used for disorders, and I'm just going to read a few because it's a lot. Disorders such as an acidic stomach, addiction, asthma, backache, bronchitis, cancer, common colds and flu, sore throat. Here we have a picture of myself engaging in a hoodoo movement. So hoodoo is often compared to Tai Chi. Here I would like to show you some of the ailments that can be treated with Smaitawi. And that is an example of people who were asked and the cases reported, and then the cases, the percentage claiming benefits of doing Smaitawi who had the ailments that you can see on the side of the screen. Heart disease, asthma, and you always have a high number of people claiming that Smaitawi has helped them to either cure or improve their condition. Some of the postures that help particular diseases. We have, for example, conditions such as asthma and bronchitis or sore throat, everything relating to breath. So whenever we experience that, we can always move to the smile breathing that I explained a while ago. For depression, we can recommend Ujara. Ujara is the journey of the sun. Okay? Become the sun. We connect with the aspect of Ra that is within us. So we definitely salute Ra, but we salute Ra inside of us, and we follow the journey of the birth of Ra to the death of Ra and the rebirth of Ra and the cycle going on and on again. That helps with depression because it gives us a perspective of the ever-changing but ever-persistent flow of life. So here is Shu movement, engaging with the air, moving from side to side. Now we stretch up, reaching up to Nut, the goddess of the sky. And here, this is the water movement that I mentioned earlier, the Tefnut movement. Body of water and the waves are flowing through us. So you are a large river, maybe the Happy River, which is commonly known as the Nile River. And we imagine how the waves flow through us, acknowledging the elements of water that are within us. Thank you very much for listening. That's what I wanted to share about Smaitawi today. I hope you could get an idea of what it's all about.
Dumelang, Thokozani, Emakhosini, Sanbonani, greetings. I'm also very honored for me to be given this opportune time to be one of the panelists in this important Boto Ubuntu Yoga International Conference. And I also want to thank the organizers of this conference. And I also want to pass my condolences to the family of the late Gogo Pepside Maseko who have passed away due to the complications of COVID-19. Let me start my presentation by firstly giving you a quotation from the late Vuzamazulu, the High Sanusi Credo Mudwa. He says, "My grandfather taught me the Zulu version of what is called in English meditation, how to breathe softly and gently like a whisper until you feel like something like a hot coal snake ascending up your spine and bursting through the top of your head. I hear something known as Umbilini in Zulu. Umbilini is a primal source of the Sangoma's powers. A Sangoma must be able to summon this Umbelini at will through the beating of the drum and through the deep meditation. First of all, I have experience as an indigenous researcher and as a scholar of working with African traditional health practitioners in South Africa, in Botswana, and also in Namibia. One of my vision or one of my goals was to make sure that there is a recognition of indigenous knowledge practitioners, including the Sangomas in South Africa. So for me, working with the indigenous knowledge systems and also working with the knowledge holders has been a journey for me, or a calling for us to try and decolonize and also to transform our education system. Astronomically, colleagues, this conference, it coincides with the 21 June winter solstice, which has been an inspiration for many indigenous cultures with regard to countless festivals, celebrations, and religious holidays, which are connected to the knowledge of the stars, the moon, the sun, and other constellations. As we know that astronomy is one of the first sciences in the world, so Africans, including also Indians, and Chinese, they had knowledge of the sun, the moon, and the stars and other constellations before the development of scientific instruments like the telescope. So the 21 June winter solstice is a very important calendar in the calendar of African indigenous because in the southern hemisphere, the June solstice is known as the shortest day of the year, and it marks the first day of the astronomical winter. But in terms of meteorological terms, we are in the middle of winter. And this month, which is June, in my own language of Botswana or Setswana, it is called Setebusi, which means you are not supposed to be traveling in the night because it is very cold during this time of June and also July. So also what is very important, we have to recognize that the United Nations General Assembly, it recognized that the global health is a long-term development objective that requires closer international cooperation. And the United Nations have also recognized yoga as one of the systems that can provide holistic approach to health and also to well-being. So it is very important that we have to recognize the benefits of yoga as a world population. And also the 21st of June each year, according to the United Nations General Assembly, has been proclaimed as the International Day of Yoga. So this conference, colleagues, is a very important one. And also what is very important, we also need to recognize that the inclusion of yoga in the UNESCO representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity is very important because yoga, it is now recognized as a human treasure. So yoga is very important because it is a system that is designed to train the body, the mind, and also the spirit, which is a very integrated program. Over the centuries, Botswana, in South Africa, and also in Namibia, and also in some parts of Botswana, like I've mentioned, they have developed a unique set of healthcare system to maintain and to promote their mental health. Botswana have developed practices like drumming, Polezamiropa in Setswana, ritualistic dances, bathing, or steaming, or what they call vomiting hopalatsa in Setswana to manage what we call mental health issues. Because mental health issues can be related to, stress. They can be related to, your mental issues in terms of Setswana batho ba re motho ona wa tsenwa kgotsa wa mare ke se tsenwa kgotsa o mong ba re una le bolwetse ba tlhaloganyo. So these things, the Botswana, they had knowledge of these things and they had different ways to deal with these things. So in achieving these things, they used to use remedies, they used the rituals, they also use therapies, and they also use African traditional medicines, which were administered by highly knowledgeable dingaka tsa Setswana, which were called the African traditional health practitioners. Some of in the other language like Zulu is called the Sangomas. But among the Botswana, this is called dingaka, and we've got different types of dingaka among the Botswana. Nalengaka e tshojwa, which is a herbalist, and Alengaka Ebarenkisi Dupe, the one who can take out poisons from somebody. We also have what we call Ngaka Tsujo. So this kind of different traditional health practitioners are very important, and they're also recognized by the Traditional Health Practitioner Act of 2007, which has been found in South Africa. Africans, they've been using music as a therapy, music as a way of healing, not just as something that can be used in exhibition. So quickly, colleagues, I want to also indicate that the documentation of health and physical well-being of benefits of indigenous games, indigenous music, and indigenous dance must also be recognized, because in the past, and I also have a student who is completing his master's degree, who's looking at indigenous music, indigenous dance, and also indigenous games, how we can use those indigenous games to deal with issues of well-being among the aged people in the Northwest, which is a very important study. So quickly, colleagues, I can tell you that in terms of the brief history of IKS in South Africa, during the years of 1996 to 1998, there was an audit of indigenous technologies in South Africa. It was initiated by the Portfolio Committee of Arts, Culture, Science and Technology, and it was carried under the auspices of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. 7 provinces were involved in this audit, and in these provinces, the University of Limpopo, University of Venda, Northwest University, University of South Africa, University of Zululand, University of Fort Hare participated in this audit. And in terms of the legal frameworks of IKS, we all know that in 2004, the Cabinet of South Africa approved what was called the IKS policy. And this IKS policy also led to the establishment of the National IKS Office in 2006 at the former Department of Science and Technology, which is now called the Department of Science and Innovation. And also, like as I mentioned before, in 2007, the Department of Health, Department of Health launched what they call the Traditional Health Practitioner Act. And also in 2019, the President of South Africa signed what we also know as the Indigenous Knowledge Act. These are some of the legal frameworks that deals with the protection and the promotion of indigenous knowledge systems. So IKS is a very important thing. We also teach it at Northwest University. But what is very important for me, colleagues, in this conference is that when we talk of Ubuntu, Ubuntu is a very important philosophy. Not only among the Botswana, I also believe this also goes to the Indians, and some of these things are also found, within their practices of yoga, because it all talks about collection of values and practices that also talks about developing an authentic human being. So I'm not going to go to defining all these concepts. What is very important for my topic and my presentation is that we need to come with indigenous innovation in health, on how we can promote mental health and also what we call physical well-being. So I would like to conclude by just giving the commonalities between yoga and African indigenous knowledge systems. Both systems and the practice of yoga and African knowledge systems, for me, they are all based on knowledge. And knowledge for me is also what I refer as science, because indigenous knowledge system is a science on its own right. Yoga also has its own science, and it is also indigenous in terms of its origin from India. African knowledge systems, they're also indigenous and they also originate from Africa. So, and all these systems, yoga and IKS, they are all inherited from the past. And they are all holistic in their approach. They don't work with regard to the principles of compartmentalization. And both systems, they also have challenges of intellectual property rights, but I believe in terms of yoga, they've managed to also come up with some of the instruments to deal with issues of IPR in terms of misappropriation. And also in South Africa, we also have the same milestones of also we have now legal frameworks that also deal with issues of biopiracy and other stuff. All knowledge systems have got also their world views, their cosmology, and they also have their own axiology. And also one of the philosophy in yoga. They allow the concept of God. And also in African knowledge systems, we have also the concept of God, which is known among different cultures, like in Botswana, they call it Mudimu. In the Zulu, there's the concept of Umvelengange, Unkulunkulu. So the cosmological origin of also this knowledge system is very important. In my conclusions, colleagues, I would like to say that yoga and African knowledge systems have commonalities. And one of the important things is that both systems are based on their local knowledge, which is coming on from their own environment. And secondly, yoga and the African knowledge system, they don't need validation from Western science because they have their own moral views, their own philosophies, and also their own epistemologies. And we have to come together as India and also as South Africa because we've got a lot of traditional health practitioners in South Africa. And also, there are also people who are knowledgeable in Ayurveda and also other practices like yoga in India. We can come up with programs and projects of collaborations as we are at Northwest University. We also work with science councils and mostly we do indigenous research. Like as I was saying, two of our students one has completed his study on the indigenous knowledge practices on mental health, and one is also completing the study on how we can use indigenous games and indigenous music and dances to deal with issues of physical well-being among the aged. So it's very important also in our education systems we have what we call recognition or prior learning, which can be a model or a system to recognize, the knowledge, the skills, and also the competencies of knowledge holders like traditional health practitioners so that they can also be accredited and also be satisfied. In the final analysis, like as I was saying, colleagues, collaboration, partnership, networking is very important. Thank you very much.
Yoga. Yoga is a word that is global today. It is for all. We all know it. All we have to do is to just integrate ourselves with the real essence of yoga today. Since yoga has deviated from its original path and become a form of yoga, which is just a small segment of the entire spectrum of what yoga is all about. Here we are under the grip of this pandemic. This is the time when most of us are waking up to a different level of life. If we think yoga is something different from us, it is actually not. Whatever it is around you and how you are incorporating that into your life, it is making you. Once you integrate the yoga as part of who you are in your daily life, you will start to expand yourself. As of now, what may happen is your mind is in conflict with your body. The real essence of yoga is more about your prana. There are so many different kinds of asanas. But if the asanas are devoid of your breathing, the regulation of the breath, it would not be asana. It won't be yoga. It won't be yoga. It would be reduced to aerobics, exercise, rigorous exercise. But once the body and pran, the vital force, comes together, it creates a harmony within. So here comes the most important teaching of yoga. How to bring left or right brain, the right nostril or the left nostril. One is cause for your emotions, one is cause for your logic. One is quite calculative in nature, one is quite emotional in this approach. How to bring them together And we have Surya Nadi and Chandra Nadi. How could we create? One is heat, one is cold. There is an inbuilt system within. There's a conflicting nature within that we have to create harmony between both of them. Once we do that, what we are able to achieve is something magical. And it happens with the prana. With the vital force being regulated consciously can create a harmony within the body. Your body will not react in a way that will suck away the power that you could treasure. There is a secretion of chemicals in the brain which happens automatically without your control. If you bring your prana, vital force, to a certain level of regulation, you could actually be in control of those chemicals. Can you imagine that? That's the power of the very preliminary stage of yoga. Awesome. We could achieve that level. That's why there have been many yogis from kind of the monster of anger to becoming a saint of peace, or to becoming a passenger of peace. So on this very special day of yoga day, when India, the Bharatvarsh, has given the hope and the meaning to the world, which not only incorporates the idea of living in harmony society, but living in harmony with everything around you. Even with a cat, maybe a dog, maybe a cow, maybe a buffalo, anything around you. What is needed here today is sentiment. And sentiment which is intuitively driven. And that intuition comes from the essence of our life, the life within, that exists within. That we know is pure consciousness. And that pure consciousness permeates, including this leaf of tree. Yoga is one science which can just do everything. It is a science which will take science to its origin. And that is, nothing is much more capable than the human mind. And that mind has a source which has to do with the prana. And prana, which has got a source within, which also permeates with the same level of energy as in this universe, in the form of air, the oxygen that we breathe in, without which we cannot think of our existence. So the final message of yoga is all about finding your root, the very root. From where you operate, there's nothing as significant or as trivial as your mind makes it. Nothing at all. That is the essence of yoga on a very preliminary stage. Yoga is that technique and that instrument that will equip you with that mechanism under which you could be intuitively guided and make your own decision. You will know that there is one out there who can handhold you through the process. There are masters like that who can handhold you through that. But most importantly, the eagerness within, the curiosity within, that has to be ignited, has to come from you. And that will happen only once there is an aspiration for achieving higher than what you have known is realized. So can you do anything in your life just by your own self? Not possible. The only way we can think of the existence of this universe and our own life is to create harmony. And that harmony comes from within. Neither my failures nor my success will determine my way of life and who I am as a person. Nothing can dictate your life. Nothing can govern your life. And that comes from, that idea originates from yoga. Why? Because once you are able to align your body and mind together at a juncture, at a specific place, on the same page, where mind and body come together, there is a harmony. The left and right brain has to come in sync with one another. That happens with the regulation of your Chandranari and Suryanari. And that's how your body is put into a sequence, put into a right order. That's when you are not prone to diseases, because it is all about bringing your body in an alignment with the higher vibration. Once your body is set to high vibration, you won't be susceptible to these diseases at all. No one would be susceptible to these viruses much. So we have to create that vibration, that higher level of frequency within ourselves. Because these higher level of frequencies have mental waves which are aligned with the cosmic energy. And once we reach to that level of consciousness, there would be a stream of wisdom and ideas that we can take download from. That's right. And pave our way through the conflict and turmoil in life. So we can have this psychic download through yoga. Of course we can. It's just that we are not aligned. We don't know it, so deny it. If you keep regulating your body with the regulation of your breath, there will be significant change. If you could reduce number of breaths by, let's say, 25% to 30%, you will be much more aware about things around you. You won't be so easily distracted. Because concentration is a luxury today. You have a big car, you have a big house, but you don't have a concentration. It's really, really luxury today in the world. So how could you find yourself do what is needed? Is the message that yoga wants to provide you and help you with. You will know that mind inclination and dispositions which are so repetitive in nature, and I find myself in a loop. Why? Because I have created a cocoon of my fantasy and I can't come out of it. But there is an awakening which happens through yoga, which could be achieved by regulating your breath at a certain pace. With the different branches of yoga, which has rooted the world in a way that yoga is much more promising in terms of providing good health and other well-being, it is utmost important that we realize the other awakening of yoga, which is to do with our own essence of existence. So with this word, happy Yoga Day, and let the Yoga Day be not just a day of celebration and awakening, but be part of our life on a daily basis.
Hello, Mr. Toki. May I have your permission to introduce Namdevji Maharaj, because we have his presence here live. So just in few minutes he will deliver his live message as well. Thank you. Maharajji, it was a wonderful video. We were able to feel all the natural elements and the feel of yoga, essence of yoga. Please continue with your message. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ubuntu, the very science that has prevailed across the globe, in fact, comes from the very essence of yoga from India. Yoga rocks, but yoga rules. This is the message today. yoga has taken fancy and has gone global. But this science actually comes from since time immemorial. And most importantly, the land of Madiba and the land of Mahatma Gandhi, where we could actually proudly say Mahatma Gandhi was contemporary at the times of Madiba. And most importantly, the essence of yoga does not lie in confinements of physical exercises. It is inclusiveness of all there is. And that is the message of Ubuntu, that we are the people through other people. We cannot exist on our own. The very existence of our life is because of there is everything that exists in harmony. So the science of yoga is something which is part of our lives, whether we call it Ubuntu or by any other names. And as the messenger of spiritual world, there have been many masters, and one of whom who has enlightened the entire universe with his wisdom is Sadhguru Sadafal Devji Maharaj. And he, in fact, talked and explained yoga in a very simple term and said, Yoga yoga sab koi kahe, yoga na jana koi, ardha dhara urad chale, yoga kahave soy. It's very simple, and it says that, our dispositions, which is draining all our energies, if the same energy is channelized constructively and turned upward towards achieving higher dimension of life, this human life could be celebrated as who we actually are. This is exactly what it means. So whatever we know of yoga today cannot be restricted only to the walls of the physical benefits. It has to go beyond that, right? I mean, would you call a 4-year-old child a yogi because he can bend his body around? Would you do that? I don't think so. So yoga is much more beyond the human concept and the perception which it creates through the senses. It cannot be understood with the help of senses. One has to go beyond the time and space reality to know his or her own existence in life, because we are not body, we are not mind, we are much more beyond than that. And if yoga can teach you that science which takes you towards a higher dimension of life, when you transgress the limit of space and time, then the actual essence of yoga can be brought forward. That is possible only when you start getting into meditation. And that meditation, if yoga does not lead you towards meditation does not mean that just focusing at one particular place in the body. And it is much more beyond than that. If yoga leads you to a higher dimension of life, which in fact, in Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says that samattam yoga uchyate, yogastaha kuru karamadi sanga taktva dhananjaya, siddhaya siddhayo samabhutva samattam yoga uchyate. Look at that. So I would just like to conclude with just few words here, because I know that there is a time limit here, that it is not about exercises, because Sri Krishna brought forward this knowledge, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and because Arjuna was totally bewildered as what he should do, and in the state of confusion to bring about the clarity as what he should do, Sri Krishna imparted him the science of Brahma Vidya Bhangam Yoga into him, and said that samattam yoga, it means in the times of achievement or in the times of misery, if one is equipoised, if one is stable, that is the state of yoga. where you are just totally undeterred by anything what happens around you. You are just stable, rooted within yourself, and nothing can affect you. But at the same time, you are very geared towards taking action. So that is what is needed in the world today. We see such a reactionary world today, but where we should be more responsive. So the thought comes from yoga when we are supposed to be responsive and to enlighten the world with our wisdom. We cannot be reactionary. So I think day-to-day's life, yoga shall be incorporated just to brighten the vision and overall well-being of entire race of humanity. And that is the message of the land of India and the land of Nadiba, UBUNTU, South Africa. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maharaj Ji. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm so thankful to Mr. Toki for his kindness for allowing me to convey this message in between. Thank you, Toki, and grateful to you. And over to you again.
Thank you so much to all our panel members for their insightful presentation and taking time out of their hectic schedule to share what we see now as health diplomacy. Starting from Ms. Akosa Asset, I noticed that in her presentation, she was quite lucid in emphasizing the importance of maintaining a balanced rhythm as well as having a union of two.
Hello. Hello, may I interrupt? We have still one video remaining of Dr. R. Nagaratna ji. Yeah, just a minute. We will play it now. Thank you.
Namaste. Welcome to all the delegates and the analysts. Thanks to the chairperson of this panel of this UBUNTU International Yoga Conference, which has been very aptly organized by ICCR on the occasion of this International Day of Yoga. As a yoga researcher, I will be sharing some of the research work that has been done on the role of yoga in mental health. We all know that World Health Organization has defined health as a very total holistic definition, saying that it is not mere absence of illness or infirmity, but it is a positive wellness at the physical, mental, social, and spiritual level. Similarly, Sri Aurobindo defined yoga as that which offers techniques for a total personality development at the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual level. It is as if World Health Organization has picked up the definition of health from this definition by Sri Aurobindo. Looking at this graph, we can see that if you mark wellness on the x-axis and state of health on the y-axis, we are all supposed to be in the normal zone if we can have wellness at the physical, mental, social, emotional, and spiritual level. And yogis were very much interested in moving from normal health to positive health to perfect health, and which goes on improving the wellness. We as yoga professionals and therapists and medical professionals are using the same techniques that the sages designed for positive health, perfect health, to move from the illness zone to normal zone. Let me share some of the research activities and research data that has been accumulated over 35 years of research at Swami Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhana Samsthana. Looking at the benefits of yoga on positive mental health, what are all the functions of the mind, cognitive abilities? The first and the foremost is the perception. Then attention concentration is very essential for analytical functions and all functions of the mind. Memory, emotional stability, and higher mental capabilities. This was a study in which we looked at the visual perceptual ability of people between 17 to 22 years of age by using an instrument called critical flicker fusion, which measures the frequency at which a flickering light is perceived to be steady. If your visual perception improves, the CFF improves, and this is what we noticed in the yoga group as compared to the control group, where CFF improved dramatically after 10 days. Looking at the same in a little older age group, we noticed that the CFF increased only after 10 days of regular yoga, when this was also associated with reduced stress. Memory is one area where a large number of papers have been published on the effect of yoga on memory, and we in our study and school children in 10 days noticed 84% increase in their memory. Interestingly, the right brain memory, which is called the spatial memory, improved better than the left brain memory or the verbal memory. Concentration, attention is a very, very important function, and we looked at the effect of breathing practices, one nostril breathing. If you do left nostril breathing, we call it as Chandra Anuloma Viloma Pranayama. Alternate nostril breathing, we call it as Nadi Shuddhi Pranayama. Right nostril breathing, we call it as Surya Anuloma Viloma. We divided the children into 4 groups. One group was doing only left nostril breathing, one group Nadi Shuddhi, one group Surya Anuloma, and one group control. And what did we notice? The stimulating practice called Surya Anuloma, there was no change in their concentration capacity in the total time taken, whereas those with left nostril breathing, it is supposed to cool down the mind. Nadi Shuddhi, which is supposed to balance the mind, was showing much better attention span and concentration as seen in this graph. Social health, which has become a very, very important component with more the material affluence, here seems to be the social and spiritual health of people, and we are seeing large amount of increasing all these social ill health, breaking up of family, student unrest, gun culture, addiction, single parent children, no care of the elderly, violence, crimes, terrorism, wars, etc. All these based on emotional stability. So we were able to measure the emotional stability by looking at the autonomic nervous system, which controls our emotions. Or when we are emotionally charged, the sympathetic tone increases. When we are emotionally stable, the parasympathetic tone increases. And this was measured by heart rate variability. And we noticed that when people were doing Nadi Shuddhi Pranayama, it decreased the sympathetic tone and increased the parasympathetic tone. Another interesting study was a 1-year follow-up study in schizophrenics who were very aggressive and hyper responders, where we were able to demonstrate emotional stability in 11 out of 23 schizophrenics who were hyper responders. And this was measured by galvanic sync resistance fluctuations. We also have a large number of PhD students who worked on higher brain functions and meditation practices. Brahmakumari meditation is a focusing type of meditation which improves the attention span, and we were able to show that by doing functional magnetic resonance imaging that the occipital region and the prefrontal region of the dorsolateral area were activated, showing that association of frontal areas which marks the direct concentration was much better. Another study was where we were able to show through middle latency auditory vocative potential, more efficient association between the thalamic cortex, thalamic areas, and the cortex by improved NB wave in the middle latency auditory vocative potential. We have had large number of other studies which measure the higher states of consciousness, Agnihotra studies, prana measurements, aura photography, consciousness field studies using random event generator, Nadi Tarangini to measure the dosha, etc. We also have data on better physical health, and what yoga makes us understand is it offers hundreds of techniques. Over 5,000 of years of research by sages were given this capacity techniques to manifest this potential divinity as given by Swami Vivekananda, who says each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature, internal and external, by 4 different yogas: Karma Yoga, Work Yoga, Worship Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Philosophy Yoga or Jnana Yoga, or Psychic Control or Raj Yoga, which includes asana, pranayama, meditation, about which there is lot of awareness today. And on this occasion of International Day of Yoga, we hope the entire globe gets involved in practicing this yoga to move towards better health, positive mental health, freedom from all the negativities, and move towards the soft power of peace, harmony, and health. Thank you.
Whose presentation focused more on Smai Tawi, and I would like to speak with her briefly in terms of understanding how we can incorporate rhythm and balance into ensuring that the mainstream health systems are also equipped with this ancient science of healing in achieving enhanced mental and physical well-being. I see Miss Akosa, she's logging in now. Miss Akosa, did you hear my question to you?
Greetings. Could you please repeat it because the connection is very unstable?
No problem, I'll repeat it again. Thank you for your lovely presentation. My question was on achieving both rhythmic and health balance in terms of breath by trying to incorporate this ancient system of science that you spoke about into the mainstream health system. How can this be achieved?
Into the mainstream health system, so meaning that there is a greater access for people to join Smai Tawi and to practice Smai Tawi. Well, some ideas would be to maybe incorporate it more into the school system. Every school has gym classes, so to incorporate movements like that, movements that are maybe like, I live in Germany, so the regular school system, gym classes focus a lot on competition and groups competing with each other instead of gaining a sense of union. And I think that is what Smai Tawi and that is what yoga is all about, the union of 2 opposites that are really part of oneself and realizing that oneself is part of the all. And that is nothing that is at all part in the public system of physical activity or even in school, where it would be good to start from a young age to realize that it's more important to find commonalities and union rather than always being on the competitive side. So I think that would be a good start to engage children in Smai Tawi movements. I've worked in kindergartens, in nurseries for children, and I've done Smai Tawi with children there. And they love it. It's amazing how people gravitate towards those flowy movements, and especially allowing children to imagine they are the river, they are the sun, allowing them to let their imagination go and be different elements. They can respond to it very well. So that's where I would start with children.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for that response. I would now like to move over to Dr. Muteo and ask just briefly regards his presentation on the importance of standardizing IKS policy, but making it knowledge that is accessible by indigenous traditional healers, as well as the general fraternity. How has the Northwest University achieved this balance between these two seemingly diametrically opposed worlds? If Dr. Muteo is live, can he please just briefly answer that for us?
So, my brother, there's a challenge of connectivity. Can you kindly repeat your question again? You are muted now.
Am I clear now?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Thank you for your lovely presentation. My focus was the importance of IKS, but most importantly, connecting the seemingly diametrically opposed worlds of indigenous knowledge healers and the mainstream healthcare systems. How has the Northwest University achieved this fine balancing act?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. That is a very serious challenge. Like, as you know, our traditional health practitioners in South Africa, although there are policies that recognizes them, like the THP Act, and now we have the IKS Act, but in practice, it's a very serious challenge. So even in the university, it's still a serious challenge because we still don't have the model for recognition of prior learning to say, how can a traditional healer who does not have formal education come to offer his knowledge to students who are in the university and university professors? Because if you have to go or to be in the university, you must be having a certificate like your matric, you must be a doctor in philosophy or what. But if you are a Sangoma, or people tend to look down on you. So it's not an easy thing, but what we try to do is that we try to engage our students to work more with traditional healers in research. And some of the healers myself, I bring them to class to offer teaching, in some of the modules that they have some competencies around. But we are working around this system. One of the students is looking at the research to say, how can we develop now the recognition of prior learning for academic purposes, if you have to recognize people like maybe Ugogo Nene, if she wants to be recognized in the what system are we going?
Inclusiveness in a world where we normally either compartmentalize or disintegrate things for better understanding. How, in his own experience, does interconnectedness help us connect with both nature and humankind, but most importantly, looking also at the forces of creation and the bounties that Mother Earth is to all of us?
Thank you so much. As the Ubuntu and the very concept of inclusiveness into whatever there is comes from the very basic principle of yoga, and which has taken the world today, and yoga has become a global phenomenon. But most importantly, what is most important here to understand is despite no matter where we come from, suppose that if I just to give you example, okay, India comes from, yoga comes from India. But do you think that in South Africa there could be better yogis than India? Of course. So if I am adopting a way of life which is nurturing me as a human being, expanding my horizon and making a better version of myself, has it got to do with any nationality? Not at all. That's why yoga today, especially in Europe, there are so many Europeans, they do a much better yoga than any one of us from India. But the science originates from India. So the very talk of indigenous culture or the science, in fact, yoga is universal consciousness. This is what we have to understand. The very theme of yoga is universal consciousness, which permeates through the entire universe, and we are part of the same. We are not devoid of anything that we have around us. I mean, whatever it is you can see around you. I mean, you are using this technology. We have this technology to which has totally, which has taken the whole world. No matter where you are, I mean, the place have become totally irrespective. So the very theme of inclusiveness is about bringing the human core of existence together at one platform, that we are all connected despite where we come from, the caste, creed, color. No matter where we come from, we are connected with the same thread of divinity. So that happens in the higher stage of yoga. Once the awareness level is heightened towards understanding the very subtle nature of our existence, which is nothing but a manifestation of our own reality. Once that stage is reached, then you can actually understand the entire concept of inclusiveness. Because at this point in time, because we are so blinded by our own dispositions. When I say dispositions, I mean that our vision has been blurred by our senses. So you see, we use the five senses, right? But we are dissipating through our energy through these senses, and they are just getting dissipated through and scattered through. All we have to do is, once we become more aware, we reach to a heightened level of awareness where we are able to crystallize these meandering senses into some constructive form of achievement. And that constructive form of achievement is the a form of real yoga, real sense of yoga. When we are able to create harmony within, we know that we are very much aligned with the higher cosmic energy. We are part of the same, and our body and mind comes to one page because there is a conscious breathing. You don't tell yourself that you are breathing consciously. It's just that you become more aware about things around you. It is not about reaching to a higher place or segregating yourself from the rest of the world. It is all about creating a final version of yourself, which happens with the awareness. So as the awareness expands, the inclusiveness just automatically happens. So it is all about creating that level of awareness through practice of yoga, through practice of pranayama.
Thank you so much. Quite lucid indeed. If I may ask Dr. Nagaratna to kindly help us understand how her research spoke to the heightened sense of anxiety as well as the isolation that we endured during the emergence of COVID-19, and how yoga has allowed both senior citizens and young kids to thrive and survive regardless of the insulation that took place.
Hello, Dr. Mahocho. This is Dr. Raghavendra here. Am I audible?
Thank you.
Namaskar. Am I audible?
Namaskar. Should I repeat my question?
Yeah, please.
No problem. I was asking with regards to the wonderful research that we learned about today in regards to the holisticness of yoga and how it enhances our mental well-being, drawing from the insulation we suffered during COVID-19, especially citizens and kids. Yoga allows them to thrive and survive regardless of the isolation that took place.
Yeah, it's a nice question. I'd like to share my views and thoughts on this because we have been using yoga interventions in various COVID care centers and hospitals across India. One of the top leading institutions like All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Jajjar, Rishikesh, Postgraduate Institute, Chandigarh, and Rajiv Gandhi Super Speciality Hospital. These 5 big hospitals where there's a lot of COVID patients there, thousands of them admitted there. And we have been involved in integrating yoga into the conventional COVID care or COVID management there. So what we are seeing that is right from last April 2020, when this first wave started off in India, we have been integrating yoga right from the day one, and we have been seeing that major fear among these patients with COVID are isolation anxiety. So they come to the COVID care center, they are alone in the center, they have no people to take care of them because nobody can be with them. And this is creating, and because of the respiratory distress, they get panicked very soon. They have a lot of anxiety, a lot of psychological distress, and these things are really having a catapulting effect on their clinical outcome as well. This is related to more deteriorating illness, more severe symptoms in these patients. So what we did was to bring in yoga intervention to reduce the distress, reduce the psychological distress in them, make them relax. And most of these patients were not hardly getting even 4 hours of sleep initially. And we used to make them relax. And by using yoga intervention, what we saw and teaching them the art of breathing, they were able to, most of them were able to get away from the oxygen supplementation therapy. So what we saw in our research findings was only 4% of those with mild to moderate symptoms required oxygen supplementation compared to 14.7% of those mild to moderate who had to need oxygen supplementation. So almost a 10% decrease in requirement for oxygen supplementation in the yoga group. This has been already communicated to a very big journal where the publications are already on the way. And these are some of the very important aspects of yoga. So yoga helps in reducing distress. It makes somebody to become very calm. It helps them to recuperate, develop the resilience to overcome or withstand these COVID symptoms. And it is really very useful because very important here is we know that the COVID mainly affects the upper respiratory tract as well as the lower respiratory tract, the lungs. And if the lungs are affected, it results in respiratory distress. And here doing yoga exercises, yoga pranayama and breathing exercises are found to be very, very, very useful in these patients. And most of them have said that by doing this, have come out of this oxygen supplementation very, very quickly. We began with patients who were not on oxygen supplementation initially, but later on we started taking yoga even into the patients who had oxygen supplementation and even into the ICU as well to improve these secretions as well. Okay, so we have developed several modules where you can integrate yoga to various aspects of care in COVID patients.
Thank you so much, and thank you for that wonderful answer. To all our panel members, to all those who are watching from anywhere in the world, to His Excellency Dr. Narendra Modi, to the ICCR team in New Delhi, to the CG in Durban, Mr. Anish Rajan, and as well as everyone who participated here today, we thank you. I hand over now to the New Delhi team.
Thank you, Mr. Toki. It was wonderful the way you have moderated the session. We have got all the glimpses of all the presentations, and due to your questions, we have also got some insight about how we can take this ahead and how we can look forward to with yoga practices in clinical implementations. Thank you, Dr. Raghavendra Raoji, as you have replaced Dr. Nagaratnaji. Thanks for your timely presence. Thank you so much. I hereby declare that this session we are taking break in this session now, and we will join again within 5 minutes for our next session. Thank you so much, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back, all of you. Saubona, namaste, and welcome. Now here we are in our last session of UBUNTU International Yoga Conference 2021, and we will be enlightened with the knowledge about cure or successful management of lifestyle diseases like diabetes, hypertension, cardiac problems, hormonal imbalances, etc. Lifestyle is a concept referring to our choices in terms of habitat, profession, diet, and all the activities in all throughout our lives. Nowadays, this word has got limited to the brands and price tags to every product we use as consumers. A properly balanced life is that comprises wise use of every element of universe in daily routine and includes wiser preferences that affect our physical and mental well-being. We have already heard the expert views in African and Indian perspective about enhancing physical and mental well-being as a preventive measure. As mentioned in definition of Ayurveda, a complete perspective about life is in terms of benefit, loss, pleasure, sorrow is given by this ancient health science. How and when did we drifted away from this understanding and got entangled in various undesirable effects on health in form of these various lifestyle diseases? Let's learn from the experts. Today, in this last session, we will be finding the commonalities between African and Indian traditions as an answer for the cure of lifestyle diseases again. Let's learn from the expert panel, sharing their expertise. Let me introduce to our expert panel. First, we have Dr. Raghavendra Rao. Once I introduce you, sir, your video will be played here. Namaskar, sir. We feel blessed to have you. You are Director of CCYRN and Board, Dr. Raghavendra Rao. You have done masters. So you have done DNIS, you have done PhD. You are Director, Central Council for Research in Yoga and Naturopathy, Ministry of Ayush, Government of India. You have done several research projects in rheumatoid arthritis, pre-diabetics, diabetics, CVD, risk prevention, using both yoga and naturopathy interventions at Swami Vivekananda Yoga University, MS Ramaiah Hospital, SCG Bangalore, and Institute of Oncology. Completed your PhD in 2007 and joined Healthcare Global Enterprises Limited, Southeast Asia's largest network of oncology hospitals, as a senior scientist and head CAMP program. He has done 89 international research publications, 1 international book chapter, and won several awards. He has been conducting global clinical trials and was heading TriStar CRO, TriStar Biorepository, HCG Cancer Registry, and Clinical Repository, and Clinical Audit and EHR. Also is a member of the Ayush Research Portal, Government of India, and recently joined the post of Director, Central Council for Research in Yoga and Naturopathy, Ministry of Ayush, Government of India. He will be presenting his expertise on Yoga Shastra with reference to diabetes management. We are looking forward to explore the treasure of knowledge about integrated health practices and guidance about lifestyle diseases management from you. Thank you for your presence in this conference. Let's hear from the expert now.
Namaste. This is Dr. Raghavendra here, Director for Central Council for Research in Yoga and Naturopathy, Ministry of Ayush, Government of India. I congratulate all of you and welcome all of you to this 7th International Day of Yoga celebrations. UBUNTU Yoga Association, as well as Indian Council for Cultural Relations, has done a commendable work in organizing this webinar to spread the message of yoga among the masses. This is a cross-cultural talk between the indigenous knowledge systems of Africa as well as the ancient knowledge systems of India, that is yoga. So today I will try to highlight certain aspects of yoga, how yoga has come to be used in the management of certain lifestyle-related diseases. So I'll just share my presentation right away. So if you want to look at the role of yoga in lifestyle-related diseases, the inquisitiveness of health benefits of yoga started in the early 1920s in India in Swami Koalalananda's ashram called Kaivala Dham, which was there near Lonavala in Pune. So that is when the first respiratory system was first analyzed, looking at the respiratory benefits of various pranayama techniques and various breath holding techniques as well. Soon afterwards, the certain yogis who claim to have mystical powers have to have siddhis, who are able to go into samadhis, who are able to even stop their heart beating. So that also evoked a lot of interest among the Western researchers and doctors who toured extensively across India, meeting these mystics and doing certain experiments on them. One of the foremost of those was Bakshi and Wenger, who did a lot of studies and met a lot of schools of yoga, met a lot of sadhus, and started publishing their work on neurophysiology of yoga. Okay, and the first paper which was published was by Dr. B.K. Anand in AIMS, where we looked at Yogi Satyamurthy, who was put inside a box, locked in a box, and was buried underground, and they could feel the pulse even after 6 days. And this was the yogi who went into samadhi. This started evoking a lot of inquisitiveness and interest on the mystical benefits of the spiritual yoga masters. Then Swami Rama did a lot of experiments in 1970s, which have been documented and published by Elmer and Green. There were scientists and doctors who were interested on looking at the inquisitiveness of yoga and its benefits on health. Okay, and this after the 1970s came Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who pioneered transcendental meditation in US for benefit of health, and one of the first publications on yoga for health was in 1975 in a landmark paper by Chandra Patil on benefits of yoga in hypertension. The second paper came from India itself by Dr. Nagaratna and Dr. H.R. Nagendra, who published their pioneering work on using yoga for asthma in British Medical Journal. Then onwards, the era of yoga research started in India. We had two great stalwarts, Professor Desi Raju and his disciple, Dr. Shirley Tillis, who had contributed immensely to the psychophysiological work of yoga in India. Now, all these are research evidence to back up the evidence for using yoga for lifestyle-related diseases. Now, let us look at how yoga is useful in these cases. If you look at some of the publications on yoga, when you start using the keywords yoga, you can see more than 6,000 publications here up to 2020. Okay, and when you start using the keywords meditation, you see equal number of them as well. So India contributes 22% of this global publications on yoga for medicine, for various lifestyle-related diseases, and it contributes only 6% of the articles on especially using yoga for lifestyle-related diseases. This is because meditation became more popular in the West by Maheshwari Yogi and their colleagues in the early 1970s, and this took off into a lot of research, which started just getting published in peer-reviewed journals, especially in USA and in Western countries, compared to that of India. Okay, and if you look at clinical trials, the huge number of clinical trials now on yoga for various medical disorders, and these are gaining popularity and building evidence for using yoga in various conditions or lifestyle-related diseases. Now, if you look at lifestyle risks, you have the lifestyle risks are metabolic syndrome, which is about obesity, insulin resistance, thyroid dysfunction, diabetes, or women's health, menstrual problems, PCOS, pregnancy-related issues, or immune imbalance such as cancer, autoimmunity, or infections, and musculoskeletal problems. It can be digestive problems, or it can be cardiac problems like ischemic heart disease, or behavioral disorders like ADHD, depression, anxiety, etc. All common to all these are three important factors: physical inactivity or sedentariness, hypernutrition, and stress. And of all this, the main factor is not having a proper disciplined lifestyle. That is, you don't know how to manage your mind. Okay, so we know that from ICMR study, which showed very clearly recently that 65% of the urban population and 50% of the rural population are physically inactive. And because of increased sedentariness in our population, the risk of getting these NCDs or lifestyle related diseases is too high. And again, westernization of the nutrition concepts, taking more of junk foods, oily foods, and beverages, canned foods, preserved foods. So all these things are known to contribute to various lifestyle-related disorders. Okay. Now let us look at how traditional yoga complements Western medicine. So we know very well that Western medicine or modern medicine is good as a acute medicine, good for emergency conditions, good for life-saving this thing, and there are a lot of advances is made as far as critical care is concerned in order to take care of somebody's health when they are critically ill. But what happens when you have a chronic disease, a lifestyle-related disease like diabetes, where you're diabetic throughout life, where you're hypertensive throughout life? So these are to be managed throughout life, and that is where modern medicine really falters. Because without changing the lifestyle, just using medications is not going to solve the problem. So adding yoga along with this modern medicine is a solution to bring both primary prevention or preventing these diseases or preventing complications arising out of these diseases. That is the secondary prevention. So what is yoga? People talk about yoga as some sort of physical exercises, some sort of headstand pose, some sort of contortionism, a workout regimen, but it's not any of this. It is simply a mastery of mind, calming down the mind, silencing the mind, or skilled control of activity. So who can do the yoga? So people think that pregnant women should not do yoga. It's to do with more of flexibility kind of exercises. It may be harmful, it may be injurious. It is not so. Anybody and anyone can practice yoga if you are in good health. And pregnant women can also do practice of yoga, but they have to be done under supervision and under guidance. Because yoga is not just flexibility of the body, but it is flexibility of your mind. It's about how you can adjust yourself to situations, how you can be accommodative, and how you can be able to adapt to and cope with other stressors in life. So we also have to look at how you can integrate yoga as a therapy. What are the basic tenets for doing so? So when you start trying to use yoga here, the moment you start trying to talk about using yoga for a patient, they would say there's no time, they're too tired, it's going to cause sore muscles, it is difficult to do an exercise or yoga as such. There's a lack of motivation. These can be some of the barriers to yoga, but these have to be overcome through a proper potential solution where you can counsel these people about the benefits of yoga. And so having a yoga which is tailored to a patient needs and concerns, and small and effective modules play a very, very important role. So how does yoga become a yoga therapy? How does yoga become to be used in modern medicine? It is because of certain concepts in the philosophical texts and your understanding of yoga. So just like you have Jacobson's relaxation in the West to help in calming down the mind or relaxing your mind. You do have relaxation techniques, you have breathing techniques, you have asanas, which are all done with internal awareness and relaxation, which are known to silence or calm the mind. Okay, so yoga works in different ways. We know the physiological benefits of yoga. We know that yoga asanas or postures are there. We have regulated breathing exercises. We have dhyana or meditation techniques as well. So all of these work on bringing about hormonal imbalance, restoring the hormonal imbalance, modulating the cytokines, modulating the cardiac output function, modulating the immune response, as well as improving flexibility and strength in the muscles. So we know the effects of yoga here. So, but we also have to see, and the available evidence for yoga is quite high. And since the International Day of Yoga in 2014, there's a 58% increase in the benefits of yoga in medicine. And just you can see on available literature, which has increased tangementally, systematically over the last 5 years, especially in case of using yoga for NCDs. So you have the illness wellness spectrum. Yoga talks about shedding the ego, moving from I to we. All this goes for more of compassion, love, etc. Not getting attached to desires, so that you don't get afflicted with stress. So yoga can be used on one hand to improve the health of the individual, on the other hand to help the individual cope with a particular disease in palliative care, especially in cancer, or rehabilitation, especially in geriatric problems or musculoskeletal problems, or for curative care in some patients with chronic illnesses as well. So these are some of the benefits of yoga intervention. And if you see, all these things are, yoga is nothing but homeostasis. It brings homeostasis in the metabolic level, immune system, neuroendocrine, and physical level. And if you look at women's problems, you have yoga can be used right from oligomenorrhea, menstrual irregularities, infertility. It can be used in pregnancy to improve pregnancy outcomes, prevent intrauterine growth retardation, prevent fetal distress, and improve the birth rate of the babies. And it can also be used even in the menopause to prevent psychological disturbances as well as hot flushes as well. So yoga has, if you see the number of articles published on yoga and women's health, huge amount of potential for using yoga in women's health. You can see them used in PCOS, depression, antenatal care, breast cancer, postpartum depression, infertility, menopausal symptoms, menstrual disorders, gestational diabetes, and so on. So basically, in terms of using yoga as a therapy is to understand the clinical problem, set clear, realistic goals, no risk of each practice or individualized therapy, learn to integrate yoga into aspects of care, and choose these practices wisely so that you know what you're doing and why you're doing this. Okay, so a lot of studies have been done, and if you look at some of the meta-analysis where our own publications have been published in cancer patients, we have shown yoga to reduce anxiety in patients, psychological distress in patients, and depression in patients, and the effects are almost similar to that of these studies found elsewhere. We also done the mechanism of action. How does this yoga help in modulating these things? Is by decreasing stress hormones such as cortisol inside the body. So we looked at 6 a.m. cortisol levels in cancer patients undergoing radiation, and we saw a decrease in cortisol as well. So in the elderly population, there are problems of aging, there's sarcopenia, loss of muscle mass, there's loss of bone mass, osteopenia, hormonal changes are there, arterial stiffness is there, loss of gray matter density. So accelerating of aging is usually occurring along with their lifestyle, sedentary habits, and stress. So yoga helps in retarding that acceleration of aging. It is very useful in managing diabetes in aging population, insomnia in aging population, hot flushes, Alzheimer's disease and dementia, and cardiac disease as well. So these are some of the effective data which we have seen for lifestyle-related diseases like coronary artery disease, obesity and metabolic syndrome, pain, insomnia, and diabetes especially. So both in case of pre-diabetes and those with case of over-diabetes, yoga is as good as a walking or any other physical activity intervention to manage diabetes in the long run, both short run as well as long run. And it's also useful for managing anxiety and depression, especially in case of cancer patients, useful for managing chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting in cancer patients, managing hypertension, asthma, gastrointestinal problems such as dyspepsia, irritable bowel syndrome, fibromyalgia, menopausal symptoms, metabolic syndrome, dyslipidemia, schizophrenia and epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, autism spectrum disorder, Parkinson's disease, and muscular dystrophy, to name it a few. So there are a lot of possibilities of using yoga as a therapy for management of NCDs or lifestyle-related diseases, and these are bound to happen as you grow older. You're going to get more of these diseases. The chance of you getting more of these diseases is very higher as you grow older, and yoga helps in preventing the onset of these diseases as well. So what is important here is we always are exposed to stress. We always live in competitive environment. We are exposed to rigors of stress, and if you are not able to cope with the particular challenges properly, you have a breakdown inside and you have an illness. But if you are able to cope with yourself properly, if you have the fitness and the resilience, you are able to become well and you're able to maintain good health. So this is very, very important. So Ayush Fit India movement is also encompassed and use yoga intervention for managing fitness of the population, and yoga plays a very important role in managing lifestyle-related diseases. Thank you so much. Thanks for patient hearing. I congratulate the organizers of Ubuntu Yoga Congress as well as Indian Council for Cultural Relations for organizing this webinar and sending out this message to the masses across the world. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we introduce Mr. Yirsir Rahotep. Welcome, Mr. Yirsir. It's great honor to have your guidance as you are the most senior instructor of Chemetic yoga in the United States with over 46 years of experience practicing and teaching. He is a greatly experienced global expert, bringing in valuable wisdom of one of the ancient and rich Northern African culture, Egypt. He, with qualifications as MSW, ERYT 500, is a master instructor of yoga and the creator of the Yoga Skills Method. Founder and executive director of the Institute of Chemetic Yoga, a non-for-profit organization dedicated to providing yoga, stress management, trauma relief, and wellness services to at-risk communities across the globe. He was involved with the original research and documentation of Chemetic yoga, ancient Egyptian or African yoga, along with master instructor Dr. Asar Hapi in the 1970s. He has trained and certified over 5,000 plus Chemetic yoga instructors across the globe through his school, Yoga Skills School of Chemetic Yoga, and conducts historical, cultural, spiritual tours of Egypt, Ethiopia, Ghana, South Africa, and other parts of the African diaspora. Mr. Yersir will be enlightening us on Chemetic yoga and its role as healing technique embedded in traditional Egyptian culture. We are looking forward to have your guidance always regarding research in IKS of Africa and India. Thanks for your presence for the conference, sir. We are looking forward to have your video now. Let's hear from the expert now.
Peace and love. My name is Yasser Rahotep, and I'm talking to you from Chicago, USA, where I live and where I practice and teach a system called Chemetic Yoga. And the term Chemetic Yoga refers to a type of yoga practice that existed in ancient Egypt. And so the word yoga itself, of course, comes from India, but practices such as meditation, such as movements and postures, such as engaging in philosophy that has an emphasis on developing a transcendent consciousness, are existing or have existed in other cultures around the world, including Africa and including ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet. Egypt in the beginning was called Kemet, and Kemet means the black land, okay? And so what I'm going to talk to you about today is how we have used Chemetic yoga as a means of healing, various what we might call lifestyle-induced illnesses. When we say the term lifestyle-induced illnesses, it means that oftentimes we are living a life where we are not eating properly, where we are not engaging in exercise properly, where we may be engaging in various habits such as smoking, drinking, maybe even becoming addicted or influenced by various types of alcohol and other substances that we might call drugs. And these, these behaviors are leading to problems that we may call mental illness, emotional imbalance, as well as physical ailments, such as hypertension or high blood pressure, such as diabetes. They can lead to cancer, they can lead to stroke, heart attack, and so on and so forth. And so we have taken the practice of Chemetic yoga and emphasized the attainment of conquest over lifestyle-related illnesses, okay? And so we use Chemetic yoga as a way of teaching people how they need to think in order to enhance their way of relating to the world. We have used Chemetic yoga to help people to change their diet. So one of the tenets of Chemetic yoga is adopting a more plant-based diet, okay? And when we say a plant-based diet, we don't just mean going to the health food store and getting some Impossible Burger or something like that, some type of processed food. We're talking about, consuming more fresh fruits, more fresh and raw vegetables, more raw nuts and seeds, and eating foods which are as organic as possible. We're talking about understanding how to prepare juices and smoothies and combining those with superfoods such as spirulina and bee pollen and other things. And the reason why we put emphasis on the diet is because diet is the primary way that ill health is created in an urbanized society where people go to the store, where people go to restaurants, where they're not growing their own food themselves. So diet and stress, those are the two main lifestyle factors that are creating ill health in urban communities, and also in communities of people where they are making transition from being rural to becoming urban, okay? And so there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of psychological stress, there's a lot of emotional stress, there's a lot of social and cultural stress that goes along with that change that is occurring all over the world. And so, so with Chemetic yoga, we put a strong emphasis on breathing. And the reason why breathing is so important is because slow, controlled breathing activates a part of your central nervous system called the parasympathetic. The parasympathetic is the opposite of the sympathetic. The sympathetic is your stress response. The parasympathetic is your relaxation response. So when you are experiencing something in your life that you consider to be stressful, it causes your blood pressure to rise. It causes your heart rate to increase, right? It causes tension to build up in your large muscles in your body, especially along your neck and along your shoulders. It causes your food to cease to digest, right? Because the energy that your body is using to digest food is diverted into your arms, into your legs to get you ready to do what? Something called fight or flight, okay? So controlled deep breathing deactivates the entire stress response and allows your body to go into a process by which you reestablish homeostasis. And homeostasis means that there is balance being returned, that your blood pressure is lowering, that your heart rate is decreasing, that your food is being digested more efficiently by your body, that your mind and your body is not on alert. Being on alert is what we call stress, because you're getting ready to fight or run away. So we use controlled deep breathing to activate those things. We also use movements and postures which are designed to increase blood circulation. Movements and postures that are designed to increase your organs' ability to digest and to assimilate food, okay? So the movements and postures that we do also help to align the skeletal system. We find that most people living in, in this modern environment, that we call modern society, that they have problems with their posture. These problems can occur because of, because we feel beat down, because we feel oppressed, because we feel put upon by various pressures and various things that we experience in our environment. And so we have problems with the posture. And by that we mean that we are compressing the spine and we're putting pressure on different organs within the body. And we're compressing the ability to breathe. And when we compress the ability to breathe, we are compressing life force. We are limiting life force, being able to move and circulate through the body. And so according to the philosophy of yoga, of Chemetic yoga, just as the philosophy of all yoga, including yoga from India, there's an emphasis on the movement of prana, the movement of energy, of life force. In India, they may use the word prana. In Kemet, in ancient Kemet, they used the word sekam. The word sekam is similar to the word prana. It represents the idea of energy and life force, which has to move through the body. And what we say is that when energy and life force is moving through the body properly, that there is going to be a healthy status for the body. When energy is being blocked from moving through the body properly, there is going to be stagnation, okay? And that means that eventually that stagnated energy is going to manifest in some type of a disease, some type of symptoms that we're going to label a disease, right? And so what we want to do is be able to keep this energy moving, keep the life force moving, and we do that through doing different movements and postures, which are designed specifically for that purpose. And then with our diets, we want to make sure that our diets contain copious amounts of vitamin C, copious amounts of B complex vitamins, copious amounts of vitamin A, vitamin E, and that we also are exposed to the sun so that we can get enough vitamin D in order to build up our immune system to fight off disease, right? So we can fight off infection, and not only just fight off infection, but having a strong immune system also helps your body to fight off different, the development of different diseases like cancer. It helps your body to fight off free radicals that can lead to arthritis and rheumatism and various other type of degenerative diseases. So all of these things are important. All of these things are advanced through the practice of Chemetic yoga or any type of yoga when it is done with the proper and specific emphasis on healing. We could do yoga for fitness. We could do yoga for various physical attributes, but we should do yoga for healing so we can actually change the emphasis of yoga for various endeavors. And we can change the emphasis of any type of yoga, whether it's Chemetic yoga, whatever, for the purpose of healing, okay? So I hope that this is informative. I hope this is helpful. Hotep, Ankh Uja Seneb. Hotep means peace. Ankh Uja Seneb means life, health, and prosperity. Hotep.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hirsir. Now, we have Srimati Kamleshji Barwal. It's great honor to have you as expertise in yoga for the conference yesterday. Since yesterday, we are blessed with Guru Devji's presence and his blessings as for inaugural. And now we have you. Thank you so much, ma'am. She's the director of Sri Sri Yoga, Secretary General of Indian Yoga Association, a highly accomplished and recognized yoga leader associated with the Art of Living Foundation since the past 20 years, bestowed with the Vishalakshi Award for contribution to the field of yoga. She has been instrumental in training yoga teachers to develop the ability to effectively manage mind and emotions, eliminate stress, and promote harmony amongst people from all walks of life, cultures, and religions through very simple yet profound yogic techniques and Sudarshan Kriya. Kamleshji has been a key member of the steering and technical committees which designed the scheme for voluntary certification of yoga professionals by Quality Council of India, QCI, as mandated by the Minister of Ayush, Government of India, to standardize and organize yoga education and practice. Being a dynamic face of Indian Yoga Association, where she has been elected as the Secretary General of the organization. Indian Yoga Association is a self-regulatory body of all leading yoga organizations in India, under the guidance of Vijayanta Yogi, Padma Vibhushan late Dr. B.K. Sayangarji, Kamleshji has contributed to hundreds of articles on yoga to publications around the world. She has featured in leading television shows in numerous countries and represented yoga on national and international forums. She has also directed and acted in many yoga videos and tutorial films to inspire youth towards leading healthy and meaningful lives. Looking forward to have your expert guidance for further research programs, ma'am. Thanks for your presence in the conference, and now we will hear from you. Thank you.
Let me begin by congratulating the organizers of this beautiful event with a very beautiful name. Namaste everyone, Saubona. Namaste means the divine in me honors the divine in you. And I see you, I honor you is Saubona. If we try to look for the most beautiful or meaningful greetings in the whole world, I think it won't be easy to find a match for these two phrases. These are definitely not about simple hello, but about connecting to the other person on a much deeper level, on a spiritual level. And to be able to greet someone from this level of owning, this level of connection, one needs to have experienced inner silence, the depths of one's inner being, one's true nature. And this connection, this union with one's own self is yoga. Today I have been asked to speak on the topic of yoga for cure of obesity and related problems. See, the popular opinion equates yoga with size or lack thereof. Often excess body weight and the inability to touch your toes is considered to prevent you from practice or even teaching of yoga. This can be partially attributed to a very limited understanding of yoga and not understanding the various dimensions of yoga. The founding father of yoga, Maharshi Patanjali, he never even mentioned any body types in his seminal texts on yoga. In fact, the reality is that yoga is indeed for every body. Let us explore the principles of yoga and bust a few myths as we look at different dimensions of yoga today and its ability to cure obesity and all other related disorders. I can very easily say that not only is yoga possible for obese people, it is probably the most sustainable solution for this issue. Yoga is both art and science of healthy life or healthy living. The scientific benefits of yoga are now being extensively investigated all around the world, and the efficacy of therapy through yoga is very well established in today's world. We need to understand that health is not merely absence of disease. It is a dynamic expression of life, being happy, being at ease. Being at ease not only with yourself, but also those around you is the sign of real health. In India, health is called swastha, which means being established in your true nature. So the ancients in India have put a continuous emphasis on considering ourselves much beyond this physical form and also the mental functionalities. They have repeatedly asserted that one who is established in self is a healthy person. Hence, yoga brings forth a much wider and holistic understanding of health, where the meaning of health encompasses all aspects of physical, mental, spiritual, and even social well-being. Similarly, the ancestors in Africa have taught about healing others with UBUNTU, a way of promoting community health and welfare. The traditional healing practices in Africa too are not just about health and growth on a physical level, but also psychological, social, and spiritual levels. The ancient healing practices in Africa, I have heard, are believed to affect the individual, the community, the surrounding environment, and even the entire cosmos. So, what are the yogic interventions for healing oneself and obesity in particular? The ancient texts of Hatha Yoga enunciate various practices that need to be done in order to purify the body and prepare it for the higher states of yogic practices and achieving perfections. The Shatkriyas, or the 6 purifying processes, help eliminate toxins from the body and restore a healthy metabolism. Physical toxins are easier to eliminate, yet it is the mental and the emotional toxins which are the source of physical ailments that really needs to be tackled to ensure that such conditions they do not recur. So this is where the practice of yoga really comes into play. Maharshi Patanjali gave an 8-fold approach of yoga, the Ashtanga Yoga. The first limb of Ashtanga Yoga, Yama, the social ethics, they include the practice of ahimsa or non-violence. Often in our quest for a so-called perfect body, shape and size, we end up hurting ourselves and hurting others. Such subtle violence on ourselves aggravates the fight or flight responses inside our body, creating various hormonal imbalances, in turn leading to obesity. The yogic practice of non-violence means not only abstaining from violence towards others, but also towards yourself. Similarly, Santosha, one of the niyamas, the second limb of yoga, is the practice of contentment. One of the causes for obesity could be the desire for gratification that tends to overpower our power of discrimination. So how many times our mind has said that a particular food item is not good for us, but the tongue has won over our mind. It's the desire for pleasure that drives us to overindulge and harm ourselves. So according to the scriptures, the practice of santosha or contentment brings anuttama sukhalabha or unparalleled pleasures. This is the method by which the ancients did not force us to deny ourselves, but gave us access to higher pleasures, which allowed these desires to die a natural death. Yoga has always aimed, at promoting holistic living through better lifestyle, improved food habits, and a good physical regime. So, yogasanas, for example, the breath and mind coordinated body movements, they play a very vital role in lymphatic drain, better blood flow to the muscles, burning down the adipose, and balanced distribution of weight in the whole body. Similarly, the practices of pranayamas, the healing breathing techniques, are well-known stress busters that reduce the risk of any psychosomatic illnesses and lifestyle-related problems. Now, there are techniques like bandhas and mudras. They are known to eliminate blockages, especially at the navel center, the Manipur chakra. This center is responsible for Jatharagni, the fire of hunger, the fire of digestion. Similarly, Viparit Karni Mudra, the Jalandhar Mudra, the Udyana Bandh, they are also considered very, very good for the treatment of obesity. Hatha Yoga texts also give a very detailed description of food that improves the functions of our body and the functions of our mind. Now, these texts under the topic of Mitahara, they discuss the nature, the frequency, time, quantity of food intake. They recommend that one must eat only when one feels hungry and leave a quarter portion of stomach empty while filling the 3/4 with fresh and vital food and water. So there are many techniques that can be effective in dealing with any imbalances in the system. Yet it is by effectively practicing such techniques that one can benefit from them. Now, the philosophy of yoga puts forth the ways and means for one to be able to effectively implement these techniques in one's life. So, when it comes to making any practice effective, Maharshi Patanjali gives 3 tips. 2 of these are pretty obvious. First, Dirghakala means practicing something for a sufficiently long time. And Nairantarya. Nairantarya means practicing without a break. Yet it is the 3rd tip that makes the biggest difference in our practice. Satkara Sevita, or practicing with honor and respect, is what brings effectiveness to any technique, making it Dridabhumi, meaning firmly established as part of our nature. So even when one is following a diet or say an exercise plan, unless one is able to respect and honor the practice, it doesn't deliver results. Now one may ask, how do I achieve all of this? The Yoga Sutras of Maharshi Patanjali, they give us 2-wheeled cart, so to speak. Abhyasa, meaning practice, and Vairagya, meaning dispassion. Now, one may be very dispassionate, yet without practice, the dispassion is also unable to deliver the desired results. Similarly, one may practice a lot, yet if we are caught up and we are feverish of desired result, the impact of the practice is dissipated. So what can really help here is having a good sangha, or a company of like-minded people. In the company of like-minded people, every practice becomes fruitful, easier, and dispassion becomes easily possible. So like-minded company. Yoga is path to realizing your true nature. And when you realize it, the whole world becomes your family. The ancient ideology of India has been of one world family, Vasudhaiva humanity. As my master Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar ji says, blossoming of human potential to fullness is yoga. May all of us benefit from the practice of yoga and stay healthy and stay happy. Salakashle. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, Kamlesh ji. It was a wonderful presentation. Now we are welcoming traditional Dr. Sithembiso Nene. Thokoza Gogo. Gogo means a wise senior lady who heads the family, and that's her job in community as well. It's a great pleasure to have this senior colleague of mine on board, and I am excited to welcome you here. Traditional Dr. Sithembiso Nene, who is a senior promoter of advanced training in primary health care, that is ATPHC course of Traditional Healers Organization in South Africa. I feel honored as my thesis is part of this curriculum, and I have shared the dais as Ayurveda facilitator for many events with this wonderful team with true passion for community service through traditional practices. Sithembiso Nene is a dignified traditional health practitioner diviner with 30 years of experience in traditional healing, multi-skilled indigenous knowledge holder. She is senior promoter of THO, trained 35 diviners, and also birth attendant. The hallmark of her work experience has been nominated as a chairperson of the traditional healers of the local district in KwaZulu-Natal, representing THPs in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa in all the government departments like Municipality, DOH, DOAgri, Department of Environmental Affairs, Wildlife Conservation, Indigenous knowledge in national level measuring in plants, food, traditional attire for girls and women, traditional dance, whistling and drum beating, facilitator at Durban University of Technology together with Professor Naiba Galeni, worked with Professor Kacharere in redesigning ATM and manufacturing natural herbs, formulation of tinctures and creams at Innovation Hub with Professor Ock from University of Pretoria, secretary at Environmental Affairs Committee. We would need your help in form of suggestions and guidance throughout to promote researches in integrated traditional approach for health management. Thanks for your presence on board, Gogo. Let's hear from our Gogo now.
Thokozani, Ahe, Nda. This is Gogo's Thembiso. My surname is Nene. My trading name is Baby Tuna. I'm a traditional health practitioner. I'm a senior promoter of THO, a birth attendant, and a diviner with 30 years of experience in traditional healing. I also a multi-skilled person with indigenous knowledge, which I'm holding it. I have trained 35 diviners. As a THP, we conduct and perform certain African practices, which are the way of life and foster social cohesion. These practices have been practiced by our forefathers and passed on from generation to generation. The African culture social conduct is the initiation and the rite passage of marriage within the society. Formal admission is to be an adulthood which signifies a transformation in which the initiation is reborn, of respect and trustworthy. Spiritual initiation teaches the concerning of life of their history, traditional belief, and how to raise a family. Cultural initiation is whereby young males and females taught about the values, rituals, spirit principles, accountabilities. They also respect their cultural tradition with the mentorship of the elders. Initiation ceremony brings people together, families, relatives, and friends, which is a restructuring of the community through age sets. Appeasing ancestors, ukuphahla, thokoza, nda, is a connection to the world of spirituality and nature, human culture feast. Initiation belief meets ritual, trustworthiness, and code of conduct. One of the programs that the THO offering is the traditional primary health care. It is a 3-month theory course and 2 months practice that offers to young and old THPs. We also teach the school leavers, especially in rural areas. The course is designed to groom and develop youth within the community and encourage informal sharing amongst THPs and create employment to young school leavers. Module offered in the course is the primary health care NQF level 1, health promotion, nutrition NQF level 1, basic first aid. The Traditional Healers Organization formulated a training program, which is the Advanced Primary Health Care training course. This is an integrated pioneering collaborative effort between the two sister sciences, Ayurveda and African traditional medicine, to find the solution to modern lifestyle problems. Amongst the greater pool expert indigenous knowledge holders who formulated the training program is Dr. Shadul. Thokoza, Ahe, Nda, I thank you.
Thank you so much, Gogo. Now we will come to the question session. First question is for Dr. Raghavendra Rao. Namaskar, sir. He's not there? Okay, next. We'll go to next expert. Mr. Yirser Rahotep, thanks for your wise words and diligent efforts to send this video, sir. It was a great learning experience for us to know about your extensive work on Chemetic yoga. What would be your guidance regarding integrated efforts between IKS of Africa and India with reference to Chemetic yoga? Means how would you like to have Chemetic yoga principles in integrated efforts or integrated curriculums?
Yes, I think that Chemetic yoga helps to sort of bridge the gap between people's understanding of what yoga is and their own connection to it. I think that Chemetic yoga helps people to, people of African descent who may feel, because of the way the yoga is presented in the Western world, it sort of alienates a lot of people. It sort of makes people feel like it's something that they that is not connected to them, or that they are not connected to. And so Chemetic yoga helps to put yoga back into more of a cultural perspective, more of a perspective of this is something that I can do for my health and for my wellness. It's not something that's alien to me. It's really something that's part of me and that's part of my ancient traditions. And so what we have found is that a lot of people of African descent within the continent of Africa and outside the continent of Africa in the diaspora have a connection, like sort of have a spiritual or psychic connection to the idea of ancient Egypt, the idea of ancient Kemet, as sort of being like the central part of our civilization that we've been disconnected to because of colonialism and because of slavery. And so once we start to become aware, start to reestablish an awareness of ancient Egypt, an awareness of Kemet, and awareness of our connection to that civilization, we sort of use it as an organizing point to to break down some of the mythologies and some of the distortions that have been placed upon us historically, and they have led to low self-esteem, they have led to feelings of inferiority, and have led to us not really engaging in our own culture and sort of rejecting our own culture. So Kemetic yoga has been sort of a cultural regeneration for a lot of African people, a lot of people of African descent, as we sort of reclaim, our own heritage. So I hope that answered the question.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, next question is for Srimati Kamlesh ji. Namaskar, Kamlesh ji. Your presentation reminded me of another definition of yoga, that is Samatvam Yoga Uchyate from Bhagavad Gita. And it was wonderful experience for us. It was wonderful depicting a sense of equality. It was a great video indeed. And with major problem of obesity and obesity-induced problems gripping the modern world, we have to think about all approaches dealing with this problem. And I want to ask you a question regarding that. What clinical correlation have you found between the concept of aparigraha, that is non-accumulative or minimalistic approach in life, with the patients of obesity? Thank you so much, Kamleshi. Over to you. Hello, Kamleshi. Okay. Yeah, sure. While Kamleshi is reconnecting, we will be asking question to traditional Dr. Gogo. Tokoza Gogo.
Togoza.
While my study of African traditional medicine, I came across multiple valuable diet combinations and wise quotes about use of natural resources that changed my view to look at every indigenous plant in Africa. Even African folk stories have depicted beautiful messages about importance of natural resources and spiritual intelligence reflected in every bit of it. Gogo, what efforts are taken by THO to inculcate our traditional wisdom for wellness in youngsters, especially using our folklore, African folklore? Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you. Togoza. As THO, we conduct this folklore teachings through the teachings that groom the youngsters to preserve the cultural practices and Ubuntu. We also do the storytelling about the cultures, rituals, which was done by our forefathers and passed on to us. And us, we have to pass to our youngsters and to the new generations. We also teach them about the spiritual world, whereby we burn our traditional plant, which is called impepo, for appeasing, which means ukuklapha. That plant helps us to connect with our ancestors, and it also helps our body and mind well-being. I think youth can be the agent in promoting cultural understanding, also plays a big role in sustainable social and economic development in the future generation. That's the way THO handles that. I thank you.
Thank you, Gogo. Thank you so much. Now hereby, I declare that, just a minute. Kamlesh. Can we wait for Kamlesh ji? We have to contact her again. क्या करें? Disconnect him. Unfortunately, we have lost contact with Kamlesh ji. So, okay, she's trying to connect. Just for a few minutes, we will wait. Is she there? She can't? Okay. Kamlesh ji, we can, yeah, thank you so much for coming back. I hope my question reached you. May I repeat?
I'm sorry I dropped out. Namaste, everyone. I'm so sorry I dropped out. I'm in the mountains and the internet here is very sketchy. I'm sorry I could not hear the question. Sorry.
Yeah. Namaste. Welcome once again. I wanted to ask a question. What clinical correlation have you found between the concept of parigrama, that is a man accumulative and holistic approach in life, with the patients of obesity? Thank you. Over to you.
Sorry, I could not hear very clearly, but I could hear aparigraha. So are we discussing aparigraha? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Actually, relation between aparigraha and obesity, minimalistic approach towards life. These are the keywords.
Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. So first of all, it was wonderful listening to the other speakers on the panel, and especially I realized how much commonality there was between all the three speeches that I heard. I heard Sithom Biso Nene, and I heard Mr. Hotep And I realized that we were all talking the same thing, just being spoken in different words and using a different vocabulary. And now that we are discussing aparigraha, and since we are talking in African context, I feel that countries like Africa and India, which where the ancient tradition is very much based into respecting the laws of nature. All our ancient philosophies, I think, in both the nations are so grounded in respecting and appreciating the laws of nature, and where the nature love, nature worship, and nature of the nature inside and nature outside is equally respected and loved. I feel a parigraha comes very naturally to people who are connected to the traditions in these countries. Because when you are loving and respecting nature, when you are honoring the powers of nature, honoring the various phenomena of nature, one thing that you will understand most is that in this universe there is enough and there's a lot of abundance. There is enough for to sustain everyone's need. There may be not enough to sustain everyone's greed, but the nature is such, this mother nature, that the creation, the universe is such that it will always support your needs. It will never have lack for you. So parigraha means the desire to accumulate, having greed for much more than what you need. And the practice of aparigraha definitely brings out a lot of balance in you. And it is not just about, it is not just about accumulating on a physical level. Because of the consumeristic society that we have become today, there's a lot of accumulation that we do on the level of material world, but accumulation also on the mental and emotional level is what needs to be addressed. A compliment or a complaint, both can have a very strong impact on our psyche, our mind. How much we are able to let go of it, give it away, how much we are able to not hold it, is what will eventually lead to a healthier person. So if we see today, especially with the youngsters, I have noticed, I've worked a lot with youth population. I see there is so much of parigraha on the level of emotions. Everything, there's so much peer pressure, there's so much desire to be appreciated, to be given a compliment, to be you want to look so nice, you want to look thin, you want to fit into a certain idea of beauty, that, and only because you want to collect all the good words from all around you. So that desire to collect appreciation, that desire to collect compliments, I see that as a very big problem. And that, rather than helping you probably deal with your issues of obesity and the related issues, you end up actually becoming even more stressed. You end up inducing much more hormonal disorders in the body, which in turn leads to the problem that you're trying to get away from. So aparigraha, I wouldn't call it very, I wouldn't equate aparigraha with the Western concept of minimalism so much, because the concept of minimalism is very purely on the physical level, or about accumulation on the material level, whereas aparigraha from the Yoga Sutras goes way beyond just accumulating the stuff from outside or going shopping or just buying as much as you need. It is more about also collecting emotional garbage, collecting mental and mental stress. All of that together, I think, is aparigraha. And of course, I this is a very good thought that you have brought up. I somehow probably missed it. It would be wonderful to actually have clinical trials on the practice of aparigraha and its effect on your psyche, your psychosomatic problems, and not just the physical problems. Yeah, more on your stress and more on your hormonal issues. This is really nice. And we have done actually Sudarshan Kriya. That is what I was talking about. When we practice Sudarshan Kriya, what we observed that a lot of people, for example, people who were in this habit of overthinking, over collecting in the mind, they slowly started relaxing, and they started, I wouldn't call it craving, but they started naturally moving towards a simpler lifestyle. I have seen so many of people that I have met who began the practice of yoga just to look good, look fit, and probably to use the word, look cool and more accepted in the society. And I saw them after 4 years, 5 years, when we met them. There is such a big change in the way and in the simplicity that they were living their life now. So these practices of yoga, the Ashtanga yoga or pranayama or asanas, they eventually connect you to your nature, makes you more natural. You tend to automatically like or rather appreciate the things which are more natural and real.
Thank you so much, Kamleshi. Yeah. Actually, as you said, it's definitely a need of time to have some research regarding this as well. Thank you so much for your knowledge. Hereby, I declare that we have come to the end of this academic session, and now I give. I hand it over to Manjishta ji. Thank you so much, everyone, all the panelists. Thokoza.
Warm greetings on behalf of the ICCR once again. Warm greetings on behalf of the ICCR once again. And as I join you back, I hope you have had a wonderfully enlightening and interesting technical sessions 2 and 3 with our brilliant moderators, Mr. Toki Mohoto from Africa and Dr. Sharduli Telwarkar from India. This global virtual 2 days conference on Ubuntu and yoga for universal well-being, finding commonalities between Indian and African traditions, is being brought to you by the Indian Council for Cultural Relations. Before we move on to the concluding session of this conference, we would like to play the excerpts of an important address made by the Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Osagi Ahaniar, in reference to this conference, read out by Ms. Hajiya Jainab Sharif, Director and Head of Department Traditional, Complementary and Alternative Medicines, Federal Ministry of Health, during the 7th International Day of Yoga celebrations in Nigeria yesterday. Do listen in.
We have come a long way, and it is important that as Nigerians, we appreciate the Indians for their kind gestures to us Nigerians, especially in the aspect of promoting Ayurveda. Not only Ayurveda, let's use the word Ayush, because these are Indian systems of medicines or healthcare systems practiced in India. And that should give us a lesson to Nigeria, because when we collaborate, we should learn from our collaborators, because they have done it and they are better than us. Humility should be our watchword, so that in similarity with our population and other traditional systems that are common amongst us, we can learn from them and improve on our own, and vice versa. Having said that, let me speak, or let me read the speech of the Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Ehenari. I am delighted to be here to participate in this year's celebration of International Yoga Day. It is worthy to know that the two countries have built a robust bilateral collaboration and cooperation in the area of promoting and developing our various traditional medicine practices over there. My invitation to this event is a confirmation of that relationship. Let me pause and say that the Ministry of Health, through the department, is well represented here. This is to show the seriousness we take to this collaboration. If you are from Ministry of Health and other related integrative medicine practitioners who also practice yoga, could you say hello to all of them? So, thank you very much. Like I said, we have had a long-term relationship, but let me focus on the subject matter of promoting our traditional healthcare systems. You may wish to know that your traditional medicine is your own indigenous medicine, is the medicine of the people, is your culture, and you cannot forget your own culture. Our grandparents had their own healing systems. But when you go to learn from other traditional medicine systems, just like we are doing now in India, we are now looking at it as complementary and alternative medicine. This is to harness our own traditional medicine. So traditional medicine and complementary medicine, they all go together. They define nature and they define traditional systems. In 2008, a delegation from the Ministry of Health visited India in a bid to study the Indian system of medicines or healthcare systems. I want to say that in India, they have a whole ministry of Ayush. You wonder why, because of the importance they attach to their own systems. Ayush, Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha, homeopathy. These are systems that are health systems, which clearly defines what we have done today. We look at healthcare purely from the curative angle, but that is not the right thing. Healthcare is encompassing, and that is what yoga has taught us today. A complete state of physical, mental, social, and spiritual being, not just merely the absence of disease. They have done that. We had a one-week tour, and we were able to learn more from them. And much more than that, we have benefited from their seminars and their programs. They have invited some members in our ministry and in our related agency to go and study and learn their own health systems. You can see they are not selfish. We're open to visiting. We're exposed by professors in various fields of traditional medicine, and we're also visited all their industries, including Doba that made the presentation today. I am happy to see that Doba has grown from strength to strength. In 2008, when we visited it, it was not as big as it is today. He said now is one of the most global world industry in the promoting Ayurveda medicine. I understand that yoga is an invaluable gift of Indians' ancient tradition, which embodies unity of mind and body, thought and action, restraint and fulfillment, harmony between man and nature, a holistic approach to health and well-being. For us Nigerians, we should begin to focus and understand the definition of health, not just taking those synthetic pills. Those pills have a long-term side effect. I speak as a pharmacist, trained to produce medicines, but what we know, holistic medicine is the way to go, encompassing nature in its entirety. That means promoting the use of natural products in terms of diet and in terms of medicines, either as herbal medicines or as phytomedicine. I congratulate the good people of India on this occasion. I'm aware of the oncoming UBUNTU International Yoga Conference.
After that very inspiring message from the Honorable Minister of Health in Nigeria, we now come to the concluding session of this conference, where we have Mr. Rajiv Tewarkar summing of the entire conference in a gist of deliberations for the convenience of all eminent participants and esteemed audience. Mr. Rajiv Tewarkar, an award-winning writer, director, editor, and producer of international films, has founded community groups like Marathi Mandal, South Africa, and UBUNTU Arts and Crafts. He's the owner of Utkarsh Entertainment and Utkarsh Projects in South Africa. Having been shortlisted as a young entrepreneur in South Africa in 2006, he has successfully executed 5 international film festivals in South Africa, promoting regional cultures. Most importantly, Mr. Tewarkar has been the academic coordinator of this conference along with Dr. Sharduli, and we owe him credit for shaping the conference from start to finish into what it has turned out to be. It's been a pleasure having you with us, Mr. Tewarkar. Thank you very much for your vast contribution. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. Namaskar, Saubona, greetings to everyone. It's been an excellent journey for last couple of months. We have been extensively involved with ICCR, engaging, discussing, talking to the ICCR team. We enjoyed the discussions. We learned quite a lot of things. I just wanted to say a few things. Like last 2 days of Ubuntu International Yoga Conference have been really amazing. Listening to all the experts of indigenous knowledge systems from India, Africa, and obviously world over. It was really an interesting journey for 3 months. A bit of a research, a lot of learning of African traditional systems, especially like Chemetic yoga, Smai Tawi. Honestly, I was not aware of both till I got involved in this unique and first of its kind conference. So even in India, I'm sure quite a lot of people may not have known about Smai Tawi and Chemetic yoga. So this is a kind of great platform which brought this into our knowledge. Hello. Each technical session had 2 panel members representing African traditional system and 2 representing yoga from India. I would like to thank all panel members and participants who have joined this conference from all over the world. Thank you so much to them. For academics, conference works as vitamins. Like most of them who are the professors or who are the PhD holders or the learners, for them this is like a really great vitamin for everyone. And this one is like really good. More than that, it's a fact and complete balanced meal, especially. So it's not just the vitamin. So now it was great having Dr. Vinayji, his vision, and Shri Dineshji and Shri Prashantji, whose support made this or brought us to this big success for this conference. Our objective was very clear, finding commonalities between Indian and African traditions. There's quite a lot of similarities, indeed, like commonalities between the 2 traditions on various levels. So the conference also clearly proved that yoga has obviously no religion. Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankarji touched many important points about applied yoga. It's been proven by their institute and many other institutes worldwide, including India, that how yoga is or how yoga helped the human beings. It enhances family values, especially in today's time. It's very important to have proper family values. Yoga helps within the families to bring the proper family values. Meditation before doing any business. So this is basically coming from a suggestion or this the talk from Shri Ji. So every time whenever you are going for meetings or negotiations, the best way to start the negotiation or to start the meeting is to have a meditation. and then the response or the result will be far better, more than what you have expected. Yoga is effective in sorting challenging relationships between the countries. The same can be applied for conflicts between the tribes, maybe within Africa, maybe in worldwide. So these are some of the challenges which can be like solved by yoga and its implementation. As I said, the conflicts to creativity, that's also important, which was mentioned by Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar ji. All the conflicts can be handled and treated creatively to get to the positive conclusion. We had quite a lot of other panel members who actually gave or who contributed quite a lot with their knowledge. Some of the things are like protocol for entire hospital, which reduced the casualties drastically, especially for the doctors, medical staff, and patients. That was implemented in one of the hospital in Pune, which was headed by Dr. Pramod Patil, which is quite a challenging task to control the deaths. Again, we have importance of rhythm in breathing and curing the diseases. So there was quite a nice like a subject that was touched by how rhythm of breathing or rhythm in breathing can cure the diseases. We also learned about like how yoga can help the kids to increase their memory and perception within 10 days. So this is something quite a interesting subject which can be taught in the schools, which will help most of the schools and the kids to learn more and to lift the memory power for all the kids. Now, adults are, it's actually challenging to have less than 10 days, especially when you are applying yoga to the main or adults. So it takes anything between 10 to 30 days to change or to improve on the memory. So cooling down mind with nadi or shuddhi, improving concentration. So that's something which is important. Like when you start cooling down your mind using nadi shuddhi, that's your concentration improves. Nadi shuddhi is also used for emotional balance, which is quite an important aspect. Now, through this conference, even though a lot of experts have said so many things, there are many projects, small little projects, may not be like big projects, but small little projects which can bring to a big worldwide effect. All these initiatives are based on evidence-based research from African and Indian traditional systems. So working together with traditional healers, even to grow all these herbs, that's also something, a small little project which can be started jointly between India and Africa or the traditional systems. That's something which we should focus on as one of the small projects. Starting more meditation sessions and training sessions, like yoga training sessions in prison in Africa. That's something which is important as well. And it's been helping. It's been proven that it has helped quite a lot within Africa and worldwide. It's not just Africa, but worldwide that helped quite a lot of people. Post-COVID is, again, another challenge. It has come up with mental challenges to a lot of youth and the aged people. So yoga has played a very important role for all the individuals. So this is basically like a small little extract of what happened during the conference. We are obviously open and we'll be discussing quite a lot with the traditional healers organization from South Africa, from Zimbabwe, and from other Chemetic yoga, how we can work together and how we can take this thing forward. So with that small or maybe big talk, I just wanted to conclude and I want to hand it over to Manjistaji. Thank you so much.
That was the gist of deliberations on the 2 days conference, summed up most comprehensively by Mr. Rajiv Tewarkar. Thank you very much, Rajiv ji. This brings us to the end of the 2 days global conference on virtual mode brought to you by the Indian Council for Cultural Relations. But no successful conference can ever take place without the unparalleled contribution of a battery of people behind it. And neither can any such conference come to an end without acknowledging the same. With great pleasure, may I now kindly call upon Mr. Deepak Karanjikar, Chairperson of both the Finance Committee as well as the Program Committee of ICCR, to deliver the vote of thanks. The man who himself played a pivotal and indispensable role in the organizing of this conference, Mr. Karanjikar wears several hats. He's an established writer, well-known actor, director, profound orator, senior-level management and business consultant, project director for several multinational projects, national spokesperson, strategist and trustee of an economic movement NGO called Arth Kranti, advisor of the All India Institute of Local Governance, member of the advisory board for Maxwell Foundation, Mumbai, chairman of the Domain Expert Committee, National Mission for Cultural Mapping, Ministry of Culture, chief advisor for a SME Association, Mumbai, project manager for Commonwealth Countries Organization in Australia. He was the general council member of Sangeet Natak Academy and was an expert committee member under the Ministry of Culture, and there is much, much more. Mr. Karanjikar also has several published work to his credit. May I kindly call upon you, sir?
Thank you, Manjishta. Namaste. Saobona. Today we are here for closing session of UBUNTU, the International Yoga Conference 2021. Aim is Yoga for Global Wellness, and theme is Finding Commonalities Between African and Indian Traditions. This conference has reached global audience through Facebook Live and YouTube Live. It also reached students, academics, and enthusiasts from global institutions and universities. We are immensely grateful to Honorable Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar Ji for accepting our humble request to grace the conference with the virtual presence for inauguration. This conference is graced with the blessings received in form of insightful videos from Honorable Prime Minister India, Shri Narendra Ji Modi, His Excellency Health Minister of Madagascar, Professor Jean-Louis Rakotoa, His Excellency Health Minister, Republic of Ghana, Mr. Kwaku Agemang Manu, His Excellency Health Minister of Kingdom of Morocco, Mr. Khalid Ait Taleb, His Excellency Secretary General of Health of Central African Republic, Mr. Igor Pasi Bosopki, and a live address by Honorable Minister of Ayush, Sri Kiranji Ririju. I express heartfelt gratitude to Honorable ICCR President Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe, who not only conceptualized this, but also guided Dr. Sharduli and Rajiv Terwadkar for every detail of it. Valuable support and guidance by Honorable DG Sri Dinesh Ji Patnaik helped to materialize these ideas, along with expertise and active support by Honorable DDG Sri Prashant Ji Pise. Event team guided charismatically from ICCR, led by Senior Program Director Sri Ramesh Ji Narula and Sri Sanjay Ji Vedi, Srimati Archana Ji Sharma and Srimati Manjishta Ji Bhatt were instrumental to make this conference happen. Special gratitude to Honorable Secretary Ayush Dr. Rajesh Ji Kotecha and Honorable Additional Secretary Ayush Sri Pramod Kumar Ji Pathak for their strong support for this conference. I thank Dr. Shardul Ji and Rajiv Ji for their untiring efforts to make this conference successful. The conference has been reached to more than 1 million audience, either directly or indirectly, through various social media platforms, and I'm equally grateful for these enthusiastic audiences. We are grateful to Honorable CG Indian Consulate Johannesburg, Mrs. Anjuji Ranjan, Honorable CG Indian Consulate Durban, Shri Anish G. Ranjan, and Director ICCR Durban, Dr. Chaitanya Ji Yogi, for their valuable support to this event. Last but not the least, we would like to thank entire ICCR technical team to make this conference flawless, and those are the real pillars of this online event. I hereby announce successful closure of UBUNTU International Yoga Conference, Chokoza. Thank you very much.